Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're revisiting the behavior and body language of Ruby Franke. About a year ago, both Ruby Franke and her friend Jodi Hildebrandt were both sentenced to prison due to acts they committed against Ruby Franke's children. Before we get started with this analysis, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be looking at today is 3 different phases of Ruby Franke. We're going to start during her 8 passengers time. Then we're going to look at her during her ConneXions time with Jodi Hildebrandt. And finally, we're going to look at her during her police interrogation. Let's just jump right in.
Got a text message from Eve's teacher. And
now, the first thing you'll probably notice is that she looks happy right now. You can see a slight smile on her face. She looks satisfied. She looks pleased. Now let's see what she's talking about.
she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens.
All right, so I want you to watch her mouth right here.
Pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school?
So directly after saying, can I bring a lunch over to the school, she purses her lips like this. This is a look of disapproval. So the idea of her bringing a lunch to school, as she will verbally express, she disapproves of this idea, and she's showing it through her body language.
That Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because
now, one thing you're not seeing is you're not seeing anger. Now, oftentimes we'll see that in the brow. You can see it in the mouth. There are a lot of places you can identify anger. Right now, outside of feeling satisfied and feeling pleased, we're not seeing a lot of other emotions. We just saw disapproval, but it looks like overall right now she looks satisfied.
I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry.
Now, she said her teacher was uncomfortable with her being hungry. She starts blinking when she talks about the teacher being uncomfortable. That's what she doesn't like. This is what's interesting. We're going to go back. We're going to watch this again because it's not been very long. You're going to see she's uncomfortable with the idea of the teacher doing something for one of her kids. So the idea of not being in absolute control makes her blink faster because that stresses her out. Watch all of this in sequence again.
Happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I...
See, it would ease her discomfort. She's blinking at the idea of it easing her discomfort. That is causing her stress. She does not like the idea of easing discomfort.
Hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with lunch.
See, she keeps blinking over and over again as she's talking about bringing her lunch to school.
But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning. And
so right now she's talking about being in absolute control, and what she's trying to express as much as she can with her face is being in control. She's trying to control her emotions as much as possible. We're seeing little bits leak out, but this is an attempt to not show emotion.
And she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food. And
now look when she says, hopefully nobody gives her food. Watch her mouth right here.
Hungry. And hopefully nobody.
So you'll notice a slight smile on her mouth when she says this. She looks stressed. She's blinking more when she's talking about the idea of a teacher helping her. She smiles when she talks about nobody giving her food. There's a really distinct dichotomy here depending on what she's talking about.
Just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
So this was a brief clip, but we got to see how much control she was trying to be in during her 8 passengers time. And for the most part, she didn't show a lot of overt emotion. Some emotion leaked out, but she wasn't trying to show emotion. She was actively trying to not show emotion. I talk a lot about behavior and body language on this channel, and understanding people is one thing, but being able to control what goes on in your own head is another. Like everybody, there's times where I feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, and there's certainly nights where I have a hard time shutting my brain off. But I also know that getting started with therapy can be overwhelming, and that's why I'm so excited to introduce today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform designed to make professional help accessible and convenient. With BetterHelp, getting started with therapy is fast and easy. You fill out a simple questionnaire about your needs, and in as little as 48 hours, you're matched with one of over 30,000 licensed therapists in their network. Whether it's via video, phone, or even messaging, therapy is available on your terms. And if your first match doesn't feel quite right, that's okay. I think one of the hardest things about therapy is finding the right fit, and you have to have the right fit. BetterHelp makes it easy to switch therapists at no extra cost. They're committed to helping you find the right fit, and there's nothing more important in therapy than finding a therapist you connect with. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, or even if you're just curious about how it could help, BetterHelp is a great way to begin. They're offering 10% off your first month. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Dr. G Explains to get started today. Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Therapy can change lives. I see it every day. If you're ready to take the first step, BetterHelp is here to help. Now we're going to watch Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt talk a little bit about anger. Let's see if her demeanor has changed from back in her 8 passengers days.
Hello and welcome to ConneXions. We're so glad you're with us. We are going to be talking about this powerful emotion. It is called anger. And I've shared with Ruby numerous times that anger...
Now you'll notice initially, her hands, Jodi's hands, are in a steepling position. We do this to give off the impression that we are an expert. Now, sometimes actual experts do this, but people also do it to convince others that they're an expert. So she is going to be taking point as the one that's in control and the knowledgeable one of the two. That's her role right here.
Is actually one of my most favorite emotions. When I first started getting to know you, she's like, anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like, I don't know what I'm dealing with here.
Now, this is interesting. Watch their body language as they're talking about this. I'm going to go through and point some things out.
Shared with Ruby numerous times that anger...
So you can see Ruby Franke leaning into Jodi Hildebrandt. She seems to feel real affection for her right now.
Is actually one of my most favorite emotions.
Both of them also seem to be experiencing actual happiness right now. So there are going to be times where you're going to see fake emotions. Both of them genuinely seem energized and happy and excited talking about anger right now.
Started getting to know you, she's like, anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like,
So as you can see Ruby Franke leaning to the side, there may be some genuine reaction there. When Jodi initially said anger is my favorite emotion, she may have had a negative response to that. That might not have made her feel very positive. So as you see her body leaning away, there may be some disconnect about that. Now, they both seem to really get in touch with their anger over time, and I think that Ruby Franke probably appreciated anger early on as well, but she at least wants people to see, I'm not as comfortable with anger as Jodi is.
I know what I'm dealing with here. What do I need to know? Teach me about anger. Yes, yes. So here's why. I love anger only when it's used in truth. As you watch this, that you will give yourself permission to start using, in truth, anger to have those beautiful outcomes.
Well, anger is just simply a tool. Just like any other emotion, you can use.
Now look at Jodi's face. She has so much stress on her face when Ruby's talking. There's a dynamic between them where Jodi is the one who has all of the knowledge and Ruby's the student, so to speak. So oftentimes you see Jodi has almost a hostility when Ruby's speaking. At times you can actually see anger. We're not seeing it as much right now, but there is a certain rigidity to her. She seems less comfortable in front of the camera and she seems irritated when Ruby's talking.
Use your emotion in truth to guide you.
See, blinking a lot. She's pursing her lips. She's uncomfortable sitting here like this.
Teach you, to refine you, to bring wisdom, or you can use your emotion to be self-neglectful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you see at the end there, Ruby looks to Jodi to make sure that she's saying the right thing. Watch this right here.
You to bring wisdom, or you can use your emotion.
See, Jodi looks at Ruby to make sure that she's saying what she's supposed to say, and then Ruby looks at Jodi for approval.
To be self-neglectful. Mm-hmm. So anger in and of itself is simply...
Look at how hard it is for Jodi to hold it all in. She seems very uncomfortable as Ruby continues to talk.
A very strong feeling of opposition. And so opposition is simply a disagreeing of, it's a disapproval of. And so, yeah, I could use my anger to say, I strongly disapprove of attacking. I strongly disapprove of abuse. I think all of us could get on board with, yeah, I have righteous anger toward adults abusing children. When I see what's going on with children being exploited and being used as tools, as pawns in a political arena, I get angry.
Mm-hmm.
There is some irony here because I don't think that Ruby Franke was referring to herself in any way from the 8 Passengers days. She's got something political in mind as she's referring to right now, and she probably lacks the insight to make any connection between what she's saying and exactly what's happening in their own lives.
I don't feel scared of anger. In truth, it's because I am very clear that I'm perceiving principles that are being violated.
Do you hear the tension in her voice? She feels angry even talking about anger. There's just so much emotion under the surface there for Jodi.
So truth is being violated, and that is what then triggers me to perceive in this direction of truth.
And look at how close they're sitting. Their legs are touching. They really seem very close. And I get they have to frame for the camera, but they really seem at this point in time, and you can see from other videos it changes, they seem very close. They seem to really be connected. I think that Jodi at times seems to have frustration towards Ruby, but Ruby seems to feel very close to Jodi.
Being violated, that's not okay. And because I am a lover of truth, I then feel this strong emotion to oppose the...
You saw her eyebrows up when she said to oppose. Let me go back to show you this right here.
And because I am a lover of truth, I then feel this strong emotion to oppose.
So this strong emotion to oppose. She wants you to look at her right now. You raise your eyebrows so people will look at your face. And so she wants you to know how badly she wants to oppose what she doesn't like. There's so much emotion here.
Was the distortion of principles.
So it sounds like it's a real protection. Anger can be a real protection. So anger can be
in truth.
And there Jodi is correcting Ruby, making sure that everything's in line with what she wants to say. She needs so much control in this situation. Now we're going to move on to part of her interrogation so we can see where things ultimately went.
Place your hand on your back for me. Perfect. And then...
So this is during Ruby Franke's arrest before she gets interrogated. And you can see she's not talking at all. She's trying to maintain absolute control. When she's first standing there, you can see she's exposing her neck. We do that when we don't feel vulnerable. Watch this right here. See that look? The neck is fully open. This is a very vulnerable spot, so we tend to put our chin down when we're feeling uncomfortable and we're trying to defend ourselves. Now, she does put her chin down in a second, but it's for a slightly different reason. Let's just keep watching.
And then...
Now, you can see she looked down right there. Now, some people might interpret that as feeling shame or feeling embarrassed or feeling defeated. We tend to look down when we do that. And she's not tucking her chin in, so I don't think that she's defending her neck right now, but she might feel some embarrassment and shame about the situation.
Right now.
And then she re-engages immediately back up to having her chin up.
Now I can put a finger in each of these, okay? And I'm just going to double off those so they don't tighten up.
Look how much control she has over her face. You're seeing no emotion. You're not seeing sadness. You're not seeing fear. Just nothing.
On you on the way out there.
Now we're going to skip ahead to the interrogation.
Is this your water?
It's yours if you want it. We'll say that. How's that?
We also have snacks if you need anything to eat.
So as you can see, she's still not saying anything. And this is a way to maintain absolute control.
We also have snacks if you need anything to eat.
And she also has a very intense gaze. You can see as people are speaking to her, she's looking directly at them and staring, but still no facial expression for the most part.
So I know I introduced myself to you earlier, but my name is Detective Bates, and this is Sergeant Tobler. We're just here to talk to you about kind of a few things involving your kids.
It is interesting because she tries to be social, and she's probably pretty good at that at times. She can probably be very charismatic with people. So even when she's not speaking, she's still looking at who she's talking about and engaging in that way. She's not just staring at a corner and not saying anything. She's just not verbally expressing herself.
So first, do you live down here, or? Or do you live up north?
Now, the blink rate is picking up a little bit, so there likely is more stress than you would think from just looking at her face.
Do you want to talk to me about where you live or how many kids you have?
As you can see her chest moving up and down, she is breathing heavier. She's trying to hide it. But when you get anxious, your heart pumps harder. When you've got adrenaline, your heart beats faster. So right now, she's trying to appear as calm as she can, but she's breathing heavy because we require oxygen if our heart is pumping that fast. So you have to take in deeper breaths.
So we just spoke with your husband, and he said you guys have 6 kids. Are those all together? Are those all your kids?
You see the blink rate is starting to slow down a little bit. She's getting more comfortable with this because it would be very hard not to say anything. That would be very uncomfortable, particularly for somebody who's social.
I can wait all day, so it's up to you if you want to talk to us about what's going on. Would you feel more comfortable talking to one of us?
Or do you want me to, I can step out if you want?
Or if you feel more comfortable talking to him, I can step out.
I'll wait till I have a lawyer.
And there's sort of a passive-aggressive smile as she says that. You can see she's putting a smile on her face and nodding her head. So at this point, we have finally heard from her, but it is a way of maintaining absolute control over the room.
I'll wait till I have a lawyer.
Okay. So you don't want to talk to us at all?
This continues on for several more minutes, and essentially what we're going to see is her continuing to just try to maintain as much control as possible. Now, you do have the right to remain silent. That's a literal right, but it doesn't change the fact that the fashion in which she's doing it does seem highly controlled and highly controlling. All right, we'll go ahead and stop here. Basically, what we've seen through this is that Ruby Franke has what appears to be a very high need for control. Not surprisingly, if we went through and watched a lot of the other videos, that is the same theme that would come up over and over again. Both Jodi and her actually seem to have that issue, and it shows up differently for both of them. But one of the things that Ruby is able to do that Jodi doesn't do so much is she has a very high degree of control over how she looks, over her expressions. Emotions still leak out, but she's very, very good at controlling her outward appearance. If you have any thoughts about this, or if there's any other videos you want me to analyze, please let me know. I've got a ton of videos that I have analyzed in the past of both Ruby and Jodi, but if there's any other ones you want to see, I'd be more than happy to do those. If you have any thoughts about this, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.